The date was June 23, 1944. The place was a remote stretch of the Atlantic Ocean, thousands of miles from any coastline, 1,000 miles west of the Cape Verde Islands. The moonless night was utterly dark, the sea an endless black plain stretching to every horizon. Somewhere in that darkness, two submarines met in secret. One was German, a U-boat from the Kriegsmarine. The other was Japanese, a giant of the deep named I-52, far from its home waters. For hours, the two vessels bobbed on the surface side by side, transferring fuel, radar equipment, and 3 German passengers who would guide the Japanese submarine through the dangerous waters of the Bay of Biscay to its final destination, the Nazi-occupied French port of Lorient. The mission was one of the most ambitious of the war, a direct exchange of war materials between the two Axis powers, a lifeline of technology and resources stretching halfway around the globe. And in the hold of the I-52, packed in 49 metal boxes, were 146 gold bars weighing 2 tons, payment for German weapons and technology. The rendezvous was a success. The German submarine slipped away into the darkness. The I-52, its decks cleared, prepared to dive and continue its voyage. It never reached France. Within hours, it would lie shattered on the ocean floor, 3 miles down, its crew, its passengers, and its fortune in gold swallowed by the Atlantic. For half a century, the I-52 would become a ghost, a legend whispered among treasure hunters, a mystery buried in declassified files, a grave marked only by scraps of silk, and a single Japanese sandal that floated on the waves the next morning. This is the story of that submarine, its secret cargo, and the long quest to find it. The I-52 was no ordinary submarine. At 357 feet long, it was larger than any American submarine of its day, a Type C-3 cargo submarine designed specifically for long-range transport missions. Laid down in March 1942 at the Mitsubishi shipyard in Kobe, it was commissioned in December 1943, one of only 3 submarines of its class built during the war. Its purpose was not to hunt enemy ships, but to carry precious cargo between Japan and Germany, running the Allied blockade in a series of missions code named Yanagi, the Japanese word for willow. These Yanagi missions were a direct result of the tripartite pact between Germany, Italy, and Japan, an attempt to exchange strategic materials and technologies across the vast distances of 2 oceans. Before the I-52, 5 other Japanese submarines had attempted the voyage. 2 were sunk. The I-52 was to be the next gambler in this deadly game. The cargo loaded onto the I-52 was staggering in its variety and value. When it departed Japan in March 1944, it carried 9.8 tons of molybdenum, a metal essential for hardening steel, 11 tons of tungsten, used for armor-piercing shells and machine tools, and 2.2 tons of gold 146 bars, packed in 49 metal boxes. This gold was Japan's payment to Germany for advanced military technology, including radar systems, aircraft engines, and perhaps even more secret weapons. The submarine also carried 3 tons of opium, destined for the German pharmaceutical industry, and 54 kilograms of caffeine. In Singapore, its last Asian port of call, it took on additional cargo: 120 tons of tin ingots, nearly 60 tons of raw rubber, and 3 tons of quinine, the precious anti-malarial drug. By the time it slipped beneath the waves of the Indian Ocean and began its long journey around Africa, the I-52 was a floating treasure chest, carrying materials worth hundreds of millions in today's dollars. But the I-52 was sailing blind. Unknown to Tokyo and Berlin, the Allies had broken the Axis codes. The intricate web of radio messages coordinating the submarine's voyage, its departure from Japan, its stop in Singapore, its planned route, and its rendezvous with the German U-boat were all being intercepted and decrypted by Allied intelligence. Every night, when the I-52 surfaced to recharge its batteries, it transmitted its position. And every night, Listening stations on both sides of the Atlantic recorded those transmissions and passed them to the submarine tracking room in Washington. The Allies knew where the I-52 was, where it was going, and what it carried. They assembled a hunter-killer task force centered around the escort carrier USS Bogue, a ship already legendary for its success against German and Japanese submarines. The Bogue and its 5 destroyer escorts were ordered to find and destroy the I-52. On the moonless night of June 23, 1944, the Bogue's aircraft were in the air, searching the vast ocean. At approximately 11:40 p.m., an Avenger torpedo bomber piloted by Lieutenant Commander Jesse Taylor picked up a surface contact on his radar. The I-52, still on the surface recovering from its rendezvous with the German U-boat. Taylor dropped flares, illuminating the area, and attacked with depth charges. The submarine crash-dived, but Taylor was prepared. He dropped a newly developed weapon. Sonobuoys, floating underwater microphones that could transmit the sounds of the submarine's propellers to the aircraft above. Then, he dropped a Mark 24. Developed by Harvard's Underwater Sound Lab, designed to home in on the sounds of a submarine. Within minutes, Taylor's sonobuoys picked up the sounds of an explosion and the terrible groaning of a hull breaking apart. Taylor, listening in his headphones, shouted the words that would become legend. "We got that sonofabbage." But the Navy was not entirely certain. Another Avenger, piloted by Lieutenant Commander William Flash Gordon, arrived on the scene hours later and also reported tracking propeller noises and dropping a torpedo. Both pilots received distinguished flying crosses, but which one had delivered the fatal blow? Had the I-52 actually sunk, or had it somehow survived? The next morning, searchers found debris floating on the surface: sheets of rubber, scraps of silk, and a single Japanese sandal. There was no doubt the I-52 was gone. But exactly where it lay, in what condition, and whether its gold remained intact, would remain mysteries for half a century. The I-52 faded into history, a footnote in the vast records of the war. Its crew of 109 men, including the 14 passengers and 3 German technicians, were listed as missing, their families never knowing exactly what happened. The gold, worth $25 million at 1944 prices, became a legend among treasure hunters. But the submarine's exact location was unknown. The coordinates recorded by Taylor and Gordon were rough estimates, and the ocean floor at that depth was a vast, featureless plain. Finding a 357-foot submarine in 17,000 feet of water was like finding a needle in a haystack the size of Texas. Enter Paul Tidwell, a maritime researcher with an obsession. In 1990, while combing through newly declassified documents at the National Archives in Washington, Tidwell stumbled upon references to the I-52 and its cargo of gold. The documents included intercepted and decoded Japanese radio messages detailing the submarine's route and manifest. Tidwell was hooked. He spent years gathering every scrap of information he could find: the logs of the USS Bogue, the records of the German submarine U-530, the personal recollections of the surviving pilots, and thousands of pages of declassified intelligence reports. He knew that if he could accurately reconstruct the events of that night, he could pinpoint the submarine's location. The technology Tidwell needed was just becoming available to civilians. During the Cold War, deep-sea exploration had been the exclusive domain of the US and Soviet navies. But with the end of the Cold War, advanced sonar and deep-sea research vessels were suddenly on the commercial market. Tidwell assembled a team that included Meridian Sciences, a Navy contractor specializing in underwater navigation, and chartered a Russian research ship, the Yuzhmorgeologia, equipped with state-of-the-art side-scan sonar capable of imaging the ocean floor at extreme depths. He raised $1 million from investors and set sail in early 1995. The search was grueling. For weeks, the ship crisscrossed the search area, towing the sonar 5 miles behind on a cable, scanning the abyssal plain. The initial search area, based on Navy records, yielded nothing. The team was running low on fuel and failure loomed. Then, Meridian Sciences used a technique called re-navigation, reanalyzing the original logs of the Bogue and the German U-boat to correct for the navigation errors of 1944. They calculated a new position, more than 10 miles from the Navy's original estimate. On May 2, 1995, the sonar picked up a dark sliver on the screen. A second pass confirmed it, a submarine, upright and remarkably intact, resting on the rocky bottom at 17,000 feet. The discovery was a sensation. Tidwell's team deployed a camera sled to photograph the wreck. The images showed the submarine in astonishing condition. The hull number, I-52, was still visible on the conning tower. A large hole, likely from the acoustic torpedo, was visible aft of the tower. Debris including scattered metal boxes that might contain the gold lay across the ocean floor. The submarine was sitting upright, as if still on patrol, a ghost ship preserved by the cold, mineral-poor water at that depth. But finding the I-52 was only the beginning. Tidwell now faced a new challenge. Who owned the gold? The submarine lay in international waters, but Japan immediately asserted ownership. As a general rule, the vessel and its cargo are definitely the property of the government of Japan, an official of the Japanese Finance Ministry told reporters. Tidwell argued that he had salvage rights under international law and had kept the Japanese government informed throughout the search. He offered to return any human remains and even the entire submarine if raised, but he wanted to recover the gold. The families of the crew complicated the issue. For them, the I-52 was not a treasure ship, but a war grave, the final resting place of 109 men. Tidwell insisted that no human remains would be found. The depth and water chemistry would have dissolved them, as happened with the Titanic, but the emotional weight was undeniable. He worked with Japanese authorities to ensure proper respect, even taking a Japanese naval ensign down to the wreck and affixing it to the submarine. Plans were made for a full-scale salvage operation. Tidwell proposed recovering the gold, the Enigma machine, diplomatic pouches, and other artifacts. The recovered items would be exhibited in a casino in Las Vegas for 3 years before being returned to Japan for permanent display in the city of Kure, where the submarine was built. The gold, valued at $25 million in 1995, equivalent to over $50 million today, would more than cover the $8 million cost of the operation. But the salvage never happened. The technical challenges of operating at 17,000 feet, a mile deeper than the Titanic, proved immense. The Japanese government's objections, while not legally binding, created diplomatic complications. Investors grew nervous. The treasure of the I-52 remains on the ocean floor to this day, 146 gold bars scattered among the debris, waiting for a technology and a legal framework that can bring it to the surface. The story of the I-52 is a perfect encapsulation of World War II's hidden dimensions. It reveals the global reach of the conflict, the secret exchanges between distant allies, the brilliant codebreakers who turned enemy secrets into weapons, and the pilots who delivered death from the sky. It also shows how the war's mysteries persist long after the last shot was fired. The submarine's wreck is a time capsule, frozen at the moment of its destruction, holding secrets that historians and treasure hunters still dream of unlocking. And its gold, 2 tons of it, lies in the darkness of the abyssal plain, a fortune waiting for someone brave enough and respectful enough to bring it home. The I-52 is not just a ghost submarine. It is a reminder that the depths of the ocean still hold the secrets of the war, and that some stories, like some treasures, take half a century to be told.